Okay, so welcome everybody. Today we talk about second intellectual output of Modeling Youth Centers project, which is about a manual, like a set of different conditions that will explain and help you to guide through the process of establishment of the youth centers. So how to establish a youth center from the scratch to the implementation phase, including involving different conditions in which we are. And we discovered yesterday, we know also that those conditions are hyper different. We are not divided only by the legal settings, political framework, societal expectations, culture, or imagination of what youth centers could be. We are also divided by administrative procedures, budgets available, and many technical parts that can hinder or support the process of building a youth center. And we are going to look at the process from the prism of three stakeholders, so three actors. Either we are decision makers who are eager and dedicated to open youth center, and sometimes, we have decision makers that don't know how to start. Even though the administrative procedures, budgetary procedures, and so on are very familiar, they are very familiar with them, but the social aspect or involvement of young people, how to do that so that this is done right. So from the prism of decision makers, we're going to look at this path. From the prism of youth workers, what do you need to support the process? No? Also, how to engage with the decision makers, because not only youth workers that can do that alone, no? But they need decision makers. So how to involve, in what forms, what kind of formats are available, and how to engage young people meaningfully. And the third party that we'll be looking at through prism of, we will look at the process, is the young people. So young people, yourself, you can also support the process. And in many cases, not many, one case in Poland, those were young people who led to the process of establishment of the youth center using the available administrative procedures and structures of participation and so on. So we're going to look at those cases. So how to use center, that's the working title for intellectual output number 2. Step-by-step manual on how to establish a youth center from different starting points and combination of resources. So in the project, of course, that's a starting sentence. We have discovered very different pathways to the youth centers, and they are very different. And all of them were either, well, we looked at the process, no? So we don't look anymore at the way how youth centers function. This is beyond this intellectual output. We looked at the process of establishment. And there are many different cases. They are very different, also actors involved. And throughout different countries, it was very difficult to also understand different conditions. So we had to use a lot of interviews and research, also desk research regarding the legal processes. And we have different examples of the pathways. Sometimes we were just happy to find the building that is available and work about the core ingredients of the recipe, let's say. Sometimes those were young people that didn't pray for a youth center, but they were active in that field, no? Looking for the support of youth workers and so on. But those were the young people that decided it. This is the meeting in Krakow from the in the middle picture, on the third picture. That's the meeting of the decision makers from municipalities of Union of Polish Metropolia. Justyna is there, I'm also there. They kindly invited me to talk about youth centers. And this is the moment when they decided, okay, we do that in our cities. Of course, those were not the heads, so like mayors and high administration, let's say, level, but they were directors of the departments. They were people working in the field of youth / education / those sectors that we talked about yesterday in the political framework. Their familiarity with the term led to speeding up the process of establishment of youth centers, and that was also great. This is another picture from Kefirek. The case is shared, but this aspect of leading towards the youth centers is slightly different because this is completely based on a social project. And we invited volunteers from different countries to renovate the building. So those people here were painting the facade. We invited yet a lot of young people and those international volunteers. Not many young people locally showed up, but there were international volunteers who were just covered with paint and painted walls and mural. The one that we took picture next to was painted by young people. So this was also a very good argument for the decision makers to go around. And of course, different formats of youth participation, conferences, and yeah, to be honest, tell me how it was in your countries, but in Krakow, it took us more or less 6 years from the moment of initiation, sparkling the idea, to the first youth center opening. 6 years. And I know one case that I will show you later of Pastorius Youth Center, that took them 10 years. Pastorius. They were building a bit, but that's a big process, and with a lot of curves on the way.
How do you define the start of the process and how do you define like the end of the process is clear? But how do you define the start of the?
That's tricky in the countries that have the idea of youth centers established. No? So they don't have to be an idea. Then the starting point is the decision. We're doing it. In a country like Poland, we have to have an idea first, and then to pursue, advocate, and work on decision makers to make it happen. So for our case, it's like initiation. So obviously, it's way longer.
In that case, I might say 3 years.
3 years,
but because like this the place was found, then 3 years to get it regularized,
organized, prepared building, and so on. So we are talking about the time frame that is hyper long at some points, and when there is, depending on different circumstances, this process can be speeded up. So let's see. And here you can see, as I mentioned before, where we look at the process from the prism of different personas. And those were the personas that developed by AI. So this is not the real people. And we have young people, different decision makers, and youth workers. And I find this first lady from right absolutely scary. Those would be the people that you will find in our publication, and especially in the online form. I forgot to explain before. The publication will be in the two forms. One will be a traditional linear publication, PDF, where you can read throughout the conditions and check out what to do to use this condition or what to do to omit the obstacle. And the second form will be more interactive. It's going to be an online tool where you select personas, so you click on who you are, and then you go answer the questions. Is this condition fulfilled? Yes, no? And depending on your answer, you get a tailored suggestions and recommendations for you. And at the end of the pathway, so you click through the process, and at the end, you get a list of recommendations that are adjusted to you. So you don't have to look at the different formats. So that's going to be two ways of presenting this IO2. How did we build a database? Short information about that might be interesting. So we were obviously taking data from the research visits, from the study visits, from the job shadowings, interviewing people, observing, checking data on our own, verifying the data, and redefining those pathways from the side of the decision makers, which was difficult, as I mentioned, because many people didn't know how the process went. They joined in the process when they got hired, the center, and the story of how it came to be is not interesting for anybody but the people who were in the process. So based on that, based on those different conditions, we built a database of different conditions. And they are most probably not exhaustive. And I would gladly take your brain to expand the list of conditions. What did we omit? What we didn't see coming? What is still important as a condition for the center? Then, based on those conditions, we build a recommendation, taking the examples of our stories that we discovered around Europe. So what worked for them? So yeah, okay, it worked for them. Let's build a recommendation out of this condition, out of this story, and we propose as a way of solving a problem or using the positive condition from those stories. But some of them didn't have the story. There was no story to attach to the condition. So we had to improvise and say, okay, maybe that could work. So again, today, the second session will be about making, verifying if those recommendations make sense for you, if this would work. Then, yeah, we identified the inhibiting factors, recommendations on how to reduce the impact of the factor, or simply convert the negative factor into a positive. No? So if we have no youth law established, how to establish youth law, even though it's another pathway on its own. Yeah, and that's how we worked about it. And let's go to it. This is the map of most of the conditions. This is the complete list of conditions we found. And this is the map of, let's say, simplified a little. And they have different colors, and they are clustered in different positions. So I would like to spend a few minutes on exploring them. Where do you want to start?
Money.
Money. Yeah. So it connects with vacant buildings. No? Money and buildings on disposal links with one another very significantly. And this also is in the middle, so it connects all of the other conditions because it may really be a major obstacle for, especially from the side of the decision maker, because, and of course, youth workers, young people as well, but there are different ways to get money being a youth worker, organization, young people, and so on. So with the high dedication, and we have the example of whole Italy, with the high dedication and no money from the public sector, you can really make youth centers. So there's many different ways. But when we want to do that with the public authorities, with the public sector, and make it along the model that will secure sustainability, secure jobs, the predictability of these centers, so long life expectancy to be high, we need the public sector to that. And if we want to go around that, this has to be the money that goes along with some kind of sector from the public sector. And they are there, they are on disposal. Either they are labeled, like in the political framework we talked yesterday, or financial, they have to be labeled for youth. Otherwise, we compete with other sectors. And different cases with money, sometimes even if there is a financial framework for youth centers, so there are money in the budget of the, for example, municipality that have the beautiful label, colorful and rainbow-like youth, there's not enough of it. And that's the case of smaller towns, Rabka for sure, where there's not enough income, basically. And even though the label is there, it's not enough to even fund one whole establishment. Another connected to that, vacant buildings. No? Again, not a problem in Italy. Plenty of buildings on disposal. And you said it also municipalities sometimes even are looking for entities to take care of them in order to pay the bills and maintain it. And if they do that for free and do some social work or youth work inside, that's perfect. No? So this kind of relationship would be based on, I don't know, mutual benefit or other way around. You call it toxic relationship. I would say it's complicated. Yeah, so in the publication, we suggest what way, how to look at the money problem and vacant buildings from different angles. And sometimes when there's the case of Nuremberg, there is no vacant buildings. Everything is fully occupied, and municipality has all their locals and rooms assigned to some public jobs. there's a need to build a building. And this is the super undertaking that takes this 10 years that I was mentioning before, Pastorius. But I'm going to show you the youth center that was built after this 10 years, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Even though another obstacle or like hindering factor for this pathway, after 10 years, this building was already outdated. This site here is connected with the legal and the political frameworks. So we have the law on youth work. No, the youth work is the job of the state, and we have youth work defined. We don't say how defined. It can be defined along the definitions that we don't really like, like this activity-based youth centers or youth work, or we have youth work because we have plenty of sports clubs. Some countries define youth work this way, and we didn't go into judging how they define a legal framework for youth work. We just say if there is a framework or if there is no framework at all. So if there is, the conditions are different. Most probably there are administrative procedures to follow, and we have to, as a youth workers, as young people, we have to just jump in the ready-made pathways to comply with their regulations. And if there is a law on that, we have to just follow that pathway. And there's no room for, for I don't know, protest or things. Because it won't work. No? What would work is just following the pathway. When there is no law on youth work in the country, some countries are following European frameworks. And that's the case following the guidelines, because of course there's no European framework that would indicate step by step how to establish a youth center, because this is not the competency of the European Union. No? In the field of youth, European Union has supporting competences. That means that they can initiate some processes, they can suggest, they can set the major goals, they can have a common vision that is coordinated between the countries. And this is the big process of establishing the priorities for European youth policies. But at the end, the documents or like law, European law on that has the status of not being binding for the countries. So the status of resolutions of the Council is that this is the desired pathway, but the countries don't have to follow it. So this is up to the country how they organize their youth work in their own state. But European Union can set some frameworks that we can follow. For example, definitions. When we miss definitions, like what is youth work, what is youth center, what is youth worker, European Union gives a lot of insights into that department. Krakow, the work that we do in Poland, is basing on European frameworks a lot. Because we didn't have our own. I mean, we had our own that is more connected to different sectors. So we take from the European definitions with the full hands. How about Italy? As well, no? You said that half of the budget for youth work comes from the EU.
Yes, but more than half.
More. So with the budget, so with the financial frameworks, obviously the definitions and youth work way that the European Union favors has to go along. You know? Unless you trick the system and take money and do whatever you want with it. I think Sweden had their own understanding of youth work when we were looking at roots of this term. It's not connected to the EU at all, but it complies with the EU very much. So a lot of things in common, but the root is not there. No? The root is someplace else. As far as we discovered, it's about many different conditions, like urbanization, where people would move to the cities a lot, small flats, parents working, we need places for young people to hang out in the afternoons when parents are still working. The other thing, equalization of chances. Also, mingling the different societies, the different communities, so that we build a society that is equal and have equal chances. Other thing, welfare state. No, this is the right of young people to have spaces on their own where they can receive basic needs, have their basic needs fulfilled, but also have access to different opportunities. So all those factors that we take for granted right now, it was already at the beginning of the 20th century in Sweden considered. Thank you, Sweden.
In Italy, if you wanted an answer, basically there are two tracks that you follow, or frameworks. You follow the European track to get the money, as you said, and you follow the Italian administrative track to get other type of resources, like spaces or other kind of aid. But for the more all the rest,
Yeah.
they have to follow internal regulations.
Yeah. So this is how it connects money with political and legal framework. No, if there is no money here, we look for it some places, but we have to comply with what we have here. And the European Union gives a lot of opportunities for that too. Thank you, European Union. What else is in here? There are public institutions in the field of youth. That's very silly, isn't it? No, but we have a youth department or youth subdivision, and even the size of the office plays a role. In 2015, when we started the process in Krakow, and we established the Committee for Citizens Dialogue, and we started to advocate for youth spaces that are different from daycare centers and Świetlicas and things like that. In the youth department, there was the subdivision of youth department in the Department of Social Policy, and it was different name back then.
No, there was a different name at the time. Yeah.
But there was social
anyway,
policy
social
involved.
policy somehow.
Yeah. You know how many employees there were?
Sorry?
A number of employees in that
Youth department?
in 2015.
I think Tamak would
Just
know
Tamak.
that, but I guess it was like three people in total.
And one of them were accountant and the other head, and one employee.
And there was also a time that the youth department was combined with department for seniors, so it was all together.
So seniors occupied the whole.
No, unit was kind of unit.
Unit. Yeah. So youth would compete with seniors, and of course, when it comes to numbers, youth is shrinking, and the population of seniors is growing. So we had no chance. We thought, but no. I will show you later. It's a beautiful story. Existence of public institutions. We had a person to turn to. We had Tomasz Dalaczyński to talk to. He was very reluctant at the beginning. He thought that we were accusing him of something and so on, to learn how to talk to decision makers. And just, I don't think I was too pushy. I think I was just young. So do you have institutions in your municipalities that deal with youth? I'm not asking Sweden. Portugal, of course, no? Aha, cool. In Italy, are they separate institutions for youth, or they're merged with other topics?
No, separate.
Separate.
No, it's usually merged with
Work.
and welfare.
Yes.
It depends because there is no national framework that mandates how it should be, like the youth department. So sometimes it's together with work, some other times it's together with other topics.
Or sports, sometimes.
Sports.
Sports is very popular to be connected with youth. Youth and sports. And even in Germany, when the youth sector is so well established, they told me that they have to compete with sports all the time, because when, it connects also with the political scene. When there are more, let's call them right-wing or populistic parties in the political scene, they invest more in sports than in youth, so that, what's the connection? Can you see the logical connection between that?
It's political vision, like, for example, it ties back into the definition of its center of the first state. Because as some people have the definition of youth center as a place, or youth as a category of its own, that has its own rights, which are different. There is also another vision that says, actually, you must put youth to work. Okay, either studying or doing sports, because lack of activity is bad. So this is training. Or training.
But clearly sports.
And education is very much important.
In Germany, they connected with, like, we had that before. They said, like, young people should be useful for the state. And we had that before, and it didn't end well. No? So somehow it connects with this field of activity. But yeah, young people should be occupied, should be in schools and so on. So the vision of where young people belong to, who are young people, what are young people's rights and so on, it's connected with their political views, obviously. But I, maybe exaggerated saying that it's like connected with political colors, not only in those parties, this vision. It more connects with the vision of young people, who they are for us. And should they be or should they be active citizens? Should they be educated to contribute to the state? Should they be sporty to join the army? We were here, public institutions in the field of youth. If they are connected with other fields, that plays a role. But usually and sometimes there's no public institution in the field of youth in a municipality whatsoever, and there wasn't even an idea to create one, because what would they do? Case of Rabka. So who did we talk to? The mayor directly. And we were lucky that he's the former teacher, so he has some connection with young people, and he's an authority. Also understanding decision makers that really understand what the field of youth is. And of course, you can imagine how it is in Poland. In Italy, very various. In Sweden, there's no question. And Germany as well. Although this impact of political colors, it's noticeable. So the IO2, for example, they really push to rather towards the education in sports than empowering format of youth work. Okay, let's skip this segment. Also, conducive political momentum, the moment that it is possible. We have a very big, evident, appalling social problem that connects with youth, and we have to solve it right away. And everybody's blah 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 in order to get support for also political support for their party, but they're using this social problem as the fuel. And you know what's that now? I think it's all around Europe. Mental health. No, mental health as an excuse. It sounds horrible, no, but as the fuel topic for advocating for youth work and youth centers. And even though youth centers don't have direct connection with mental health, it is generic prevention. It is building resilience through building social contacts of young people, making building the space where they can build resilience. So it's not the direct connection at all. It's like no, and those places are really far. But it is contributing, and it is proven that it is contributing. In UK, they even noticed that when the youth centers were closed for the COVID, the suicide rate raised drastically. In Miss Mazowiecki, they say that if not Miss Mazowiecki Youth Center, 4 people would be dead now. And so on and so forth. No? So when we remove this factor of youth work, we see consequences. We cannot prove that this is direct consequence, of course, but we notice, no, time coincidence, isn't it coincidence? So this political momentum can be based on the concrete social problem that we have to solve right away, and everybody's putting all of their resources into it, and mental health will be one of it. It is also, it used to be in Europe in general, in Italy it's still youth unemployment, no, and school dropouts. Still a big problem, and something that is unquestionable. No, there's no question that we should take that problem on our agenda. If we talk about political participation, youth participation of young people, empowerment, youth rights, the free time, cultural development, social development, we have bigger problems than that. So we can. This momentum is also going through many stories of establishment of these centers, because the basic rights are not attractive, aren't they?
I think it's more about the fact that, for example, youth unemployment became a topic when it was obvious how many youth So it was like it's a clear problem until it was not such high youth unemployment in the EU. They didn't talk much about it, and then mental health became important because of COVID, and people got locked up in their homes. So then no one was questioning it anymore. So you kind of need to have like some almost drastic experience to.
Exactly. Another example, the domestic violence on young people in Poland. It was present culturally forever, and absolute horrifying case of 3-year-old, 5-year-old, I remember, Kamil was his name, being tortured and like beaten up to death, caused a spin-off effect to regulate protection of young people, young minors against violence, including sexual violence. And this happened within 1 year, but we needed somebody to be this, And again, a strategy towards youth, we have a strategy or we don't have a strategy. In Poland we don't, Italy we have, Sweden we have, Germany of course we have, Portugal, yes. So only Poland is without a strategy now. National strategy. In Krakow, there's a program towards young people, directed to young people, and there's a recommendation now that it should be turned into a strategy with some benefits of it, but it's on the scale of Krakow. Okay, so connected, those political factors is connected with legal framework in here. So there is a legal or policy framework established in the country. There are qualified youth workers. That's something that we discussed yesterday as well. No? If there are people that know the way of youth work, who know the principles, feel the sector, and treat young people in the way that youth work treats young people, somebody will do it. No? We have the professionals, we have the title, academic diploma, vocation, whatever. It is recognized in a way that if there's a profession like that, so there's somebody, some experts, some professionals to take care of the field, and we have somebody to dedicate it to. In case of Poland, when we don't have that, and youth worker is a profession, but it's defined in a way that youth workers are working with fewer opportunities young people on the risk of marginalization and exclusion. So this is strictly connected with social work and a specific even aspect of social work. When we want to pursue the field and open youth centers everywhere around Poland, there will be nobody who will be doing that right. There will be lots of pedagogues, sociologists, psychologists, and so on that would take, if they're familiar with youth work, I don't know, went for Erasmus Plus programs and so on, they could steer it with that principles. But if not, they would lean towards their own profession, like studied profession. And that's the case of many cases. Recognized youth work, so not only a qualification framework, but also youth work is recognized. So young people, nothing. Society knows what we are doing. Does society know in Italy what you're doing?
Generally not. Absolutely not. Maybe young people will reach, absolutely no.
And society in general?
Society in general, I don't think they.
What do you mean with society?
Huh?
What do you mean with society?
Your father, your mother.
Do you have to explain yourself in a family dinner?
Average Italian guy.
When they say what we do,
If they know what we do. No, you have to explain. You have to at least explain it in 2 or 10 minutes, maybe then he understands.
well, I noticed something. I went to Azor Island and I met this Italian man. He asked me, "What do you do for life?" I think we talked like 20 minutes. I think at the end he said, "I still don't understand what you do."
Yeah. So recognized youth work. That do you have to excuse yourself for what you do, and why do you have fun with young people and get money for it? And that the fact that it's considered a work at all. Sometimes it's not considered as work. You play with kids in your free time. That's what you do. Or strong social organizations. No? So that's the case of Poland. We have NGOs that are very active in the field of youth in Erasmus Plus. So there is in the knowledge there, but of course very diverse. No, you cannot. It's not standardized. It's accidental knowledge. No, you pick what you want to learn to build some kind of profile of your own, but it probably is not complete youth work profile. But yeah, there are organizations that are doing that for a long time and are very skilled